Really like to thank you all for being here for our webinar today, which is about breast cancer awareness and screening, diagnosis, novel surgical approaches, and survivorship. And before starting off, I would just like to give a little bit of introduction about Dr. B. Borua Cancer Hospital. The full name is Dr. Bhuvaneshwar Borua Cancer Institute, and in short, we call it as BCCI. BCCI is a cancer care hospital and research center in Guwahati, India. It is a grants in aid institute of Department of Atomic Energy, Government of India, and a unit of Tata Memorial Center, Mumbai. B. Borua Cancer Institute is a regional cancer center recognized by the Government of India. Now, a little bit about Breast Cancer Hub. BCH is a GuideStar Platinum certified 2021 top rated 501c3 nonprofit registered in North Carolina, USA. Our mission is to make sustainable changes working at the grassroots level by bridging the gap between the developed and the developing countries. BCH focuses on breast cancer in women, men, and all genders, and supports all cancer types through its mission of awareness, education, research, community outreaches, screening camps, support groups, and counseling, adopting villages for door-to-door cancer screening and treatment management, and providing patient treatment aid to the underprivileged. All our services are free of cost, and all donations, we do not have any government aid or funding. So whatever contribution comes is from our kind-hearted community donors. And everything goes for the mission and for the cause, because in the USA, we all are volunteers. So it's our pro bono and full-time voluntary service. And that's how we are, working with Breast Cancer Hub. So this is a little bit on the introduction side. And now I would kindly, it's my honor actually, to invite to be on the same platform as Dr. Kataki sir. So I would like to welcome Dr. Amal Chandra Kataki, Director of BBCI India, and to start the session and we would be enlightened with his precious words. So over to you, sir.
Okay, my dear Dr. Gopamutta Das Roy, the President of the Breast Cancer Hub, and then also my esteemed friends from different parts of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great pleasure for all of us to organize jointly a global webinar to create awareness on breast cancer. As you all know, there is gradual change in the paradigm of the pattern of the disease. Earlier, our challenge was communicable diseases. Nowadays, more people are dying with non-communicable diseases. In the West, out of the all death, about 71% is due to non-communicable diseases. But then things are changing so far India is concerned. Now, even in India, about 63% of the all deaths are due to non-communicable diseases. So far cancer as a whole is concerned, in India, we have a national cancer registry program of the country under Indian Council of the Medical Research. And as per the registry report, the incidence of cancer, which is highest in the northeastern part of the country, though it is highest about 200 per 100,000 population, but that this incidence is definitely much lower than that of the United States and the other developed countries. Breast cancer, in India, we see about 210,000 breast cancer patients every year. And the lifetime risk of women suffering from breast cancer in India is 1 out of 29. I am very happy that a whole month of October is being celebrated to create awareness for breast cancer, and then many aspects of breast cancer for the prevention, early detection, surgical management, survivorship, and then all aspects will be discussed today by the resource persons. But then I would like to emphasize mostly on the prevention and the early detection. As you all know, there are some risk factors which are modifiable risk factors, and then some are non-modifiable risk factors. We'll have to educate public about the three basic principles Okay, touch your breast, means examine your breast. Then, okay, look for some changes, then check. Check means whenever you see some changes, consult general practitioners or the doctors to ascertain whether these changes are attributable to breast cancer or some other benign condition. If we can achieve that, probably we will be able to detect breast cancer at an early age. But what we have observed in India, about 57% of the breast cancer at the time of diagnosis is a local regionally advanced disease. Only 20%, 29% of the breast cancer that we see in our country is detected at an early stage. So, lot of challenges ahead of us, how to downstage the disease from the locally advanced disease to early stage disease, so that we can have a better survival. As you know, significant improvement has taken place in the medical science so far. The surgical techniques are concerned, so far the advanced radiotherapy technique, and then molecular markers, then targeted chemotherapy, all these have contributed significant improvement in the survival of the breast cancer. So need of the hour in the developing countries like ours, we must have a database of the breast cancer survival treated at maybe a BBCI or in India. It should not be only a database. We'll have to motivate them to come forward to create awareness for prevention and early detection of breast cancer. If a breast cancer warrior speaks to the public, probably it is more reassuring than doctors speaking that, okay, breast cancer can be prevented, breast cancer can be detected at an early stage, breast cancer can be cured. But then if a breast cancer warrior, breast cancer survivor, speak to another fellow colleague who is suffering from breast cancer or to the general public, that will be probably more encouraging, and then acceptance will be more. If we do that, probably it will be a great service to the humanity. We must understand that the moment a diagnosis of cancer is made, there are a lot of other issues like a phase of denial, then anger, depression, guilt, then a lot of psychosocial issues, frustration, stigmas associated with it. So it is our duty to remove all the fear and risks associated with cancer. If we can detect breast cancer at an early stage, we can offer them breast conservation surgery. So in that sort of a situation, that's the most of the time the concern for the women is the breast preservation. And the breast preservation will be very ideal if we can detect breast cancer at an early stage. And then I don't find any reason when a group like this, okay, we all work together for advocacy for the prevention and early detection of breast cancer, we can achieve the goal, if not complete prevention, but we'll be able to do justice to the patient. And then my appeal to all of you, my fellow, I can see many faces from across the world. So let us join hands. You have already joined hands with Dr. Lopamudra through Breast Cancer Hub. She is doing wonderful work. It was nice to interact with her during her visit to Dr. B. Borua Cancer Institute. And then I am sure that this sort of activity should continue. And then Dr. Lopamudra, which are fellow colleagues from USA and other part of the country, will help us by organizing this sort of the webinar from time to time. Maybe when we organize next time, we should bring in some cancer survivor from this part of the country, so that there should be another group of breast cancer warrior across the screen, so that they also get an opportunity to interact, and then that is definitely going to motivate. I'm not going to take much of your time. I have a feeling it's an early morning in USA, probably Though I have said good night, when I came here, I thought I had to say both a good evening and a good morning, but then I know it is good morning for you also. But then sorry for troubling you at this hour. With these few words, I once again and thank you for participating in the global webinar. And then I wish this occasion a grand success. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for patience hearing.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful, Dr. Katiki sir, for giving an overview of the full webinar today and why early detection and prevention is the key, and for opening the session with all your invaluable insights and your expertise. And we sincerely value it, and we definitely will take it forward. Thank you so much, sir. Now, our next speaker is Dr. Sravana Mishra Bhagavati from the Department of Preventive Oncology, BBCI. Over to you, Dr. Sravana.
Thank you, Lopa. And a big applause to Lopa, of course. So my screen is visible. Is it visible?
Yes, Dr. Sravana, it is.
Okay. So actually, prevention is always better than cure. That is one word I was saying, and that is true. It's true. It's so true. So how to detect, how to know in a very early stage that someone is having breast cancer? I'd say that the best doctor for ourselves, we are the best doctors. Actually, we know our body very well than any other people. So the self-breast examination is the best weapon to detect breast cancer in a very early stage. So now, in a very simple way, I'm going to present, because I think Lopa will cover most of the other things, like many things will be covered by Lopa later on. So I'll just give a highlight. So, slides are going. So BSC, breast self-examination, it is a self-checkup done at home to look for changes or problems in the breast tissues. So simply, this is BSE. And I think all of us, we already know what is BSE. It is like just a reminder. Now, who should do it? Both males and females. Because though in males, breast cancer is very uncommon or very less common in comparison to females, but still, male may also have breast cancer, which is much deadlier in comparison to its female counterparts. So who should do it? Both males and females. Now, what is the tool for breast self-examination? That is the best ultrasound, which is God-given, our hands. And palm of the fingers, the flat of the hand, they are very sensitive. With this part of the hand, we can even feel very small pimples. We may miss it through an ultrasound, but these fingertips are very, very sensitive. So this is the tool for breast self-examination, ready to use. Now, when to do BSE? At least once a month. In case of menstruating women, 5 to 7 days after beginning of their period, they should do the breast cancer screening, self-breast examination. In case of speaker problem by in case of menopausal women, they should do it same date each month. And in case of pregnant women, same date each month. And in case of male watch, they should fix a date so that they don't miss the breast self-examination. So they should do it every month. They should do once, at least fixed date should be there. So how much time is needed? It is not that time consuming. We can at least give ourselves 20 minutes per month, can't we? So it's very easy. It takes only about 20 minutes. Of course, it will depend on how, how fast you can do it or how expert you become after doing some of the, some breast self-examinations on yourself. Now, what to examine? To examine the whole breast tissue. What is this whole breast tissue means? Breast doesn't mean only the breast. It is from the collarbone to the sixth rib, that is up to your abdomen almost, and from mid-sternum to axilla. So we cannot miss any area because this is the whole tissue, which this is the breast tissue actually. So it should be done without leaving any area, from collarbone to sixth rib and mid-sternum to axilla. And what to look for and feel for during BSc. We have to know what are the different signs and symptoms of breast cancer. Breast cancer, most common presenting symptom or sign, most common presentation is a painless breast lump. Sometimes it may be painful. It is over if it is over an arm or something, but usually they present with a painless lump in the breast. Apart from that, many other changes may be seen in the breast, which may be the alarming signs of breast cancer. So they are like sudden increase in size of one breast in comparison to the other, or sudden increase in breast size. Then apart from that, some skin changes may be there, like which is called pudiorange appearance, that is the orange peel appearance. There may be changes in the nipple, like there may be retraction of the nipple. There may be bloody or other, like reddish or some kind of other discharges from the nipple. Okay, so many things may be noticeable in the breast. If we see all these alarming signs, then it may be we have to go to our doctor immediately without taking any risk. But to mention here, not all the lumps are breast cancer and not all the changes are breast cancer, but we have to know the signs and we have to report it early. We don't have to think whether it is breast cancer or not, but if we see any kind of alarming signs, we have to visit a doctor. So how to do BSc? How to do? First is to see, and then is to feel. See what we see. As I have already mentioned, any kind of changes, sudden changes in breast size, any kind of skin changes, any kind of nipple retraction, any kind of discharge, any kind of soreness. So we have to see all these things. And what we feel? We have to feel for any lump, any kind of detectable, palpable thing in the breast tissue, which extends from the collarbone to above the abdomen strip and from your mid-chest, that is mid-sternum, to the axilla, that is armpit. So how to feel? Use flat of hands. That is a pad of the fingers. These are very, very sensitive. As I said, a ultrasound can miss a pimple, but not our pads of fingers. That's sensitive it is, a God-given tool. Never squeeze breast tissues between the fingers because it may give us a feeling of bumpy, lumpy things, because breast is nothing but it's a gland. So we may be confused for lump, but usually we should never squeeze the breast tissue between the fingers while examining. Examine the whole breast tissues in circular ways from the nipple outwards or from top to below in a vertical way, so that we don't miss any tissue. And some women, they find it very easy during their shower. They may use use their God-given ultrasound, that is their hand, and a very easy lubricant, like which is used during ultrasound. They may use the soap as the lubricant. So everything is easily, readily available. Only thing is that we have to love ourselves enough to give at least 20 minutes per month to ourselves. Then, how to do now? First, see, as I have already said, stand in front of a mirror, check each breast for anything unusual. Unusual, if something is unusual, it is usually something abnormal. Check the skin for puckering, dimpling, or scaling. Look for any discharge from the nipples. So watching closely in the mirror, clasping your hands behind your head and press your hands forward. Next, press your hands firmly on your hips, bend slightly toward the mirror as you pull your shoulders and elbow forward. Usually, normal breast is sagged a little bit, but if there is some pathology, that elasticity may not be there. So we have to see all these things. Then next, gently squeeze each nipple and look for any kind of itchiness. And if we lie down, usually it is easier to do the palpate the breast. So usually because it spreads the breast tissue evenly over the chest, so the lady may lie down on their back with one arm over the head and a pillow folded under the shoulder. And now the position flattens the breast and makes it easy to check. As I have already mentioned, use your pads of the fingers, flat of the hands, never squeeze the breast between your fingers, and with rolling movement, firm, little bit firm. You just press it and do the rolling movement, and you try to find out any kind of lump, any kind of abnormal lump or any kind of abnormality in your breast tissues. So like that, you have to repeat on the other side as well. Now remember, all lumps are not cancer and all discharges are not cancer. So, but if you see any lump, any discharge or skin changes or other changes in the breast, immediately contact your doctor. So this is the gold standard thing, I would say. It is very easy to do and very easy to find. And only thing is we have to spread the awareness about this breast self-examination. And I think this is the best platform which we can use to spread the awareness about breast self-examination, apart from avoiding the risk factors as far as possible and doing the other screening procedures. Like breast screening is very important. I think Lupa will cover the later part. This is the preliminary thing, the breast self-examination. So I'll end my session here. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Lupa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sravana, for the, such detailed explanation of how to do the breast self-exam. And that was a wonderful presentation. So I will take it from here. Thank you so much. And if you could stop sharing your screen, and then I can take. So I will present on more like a follow-up, but in a slightly going into the grassroots, basically, what actually goes wrong, right? I mean, in spite of the socioeconomic condition, in spite of our education, there is something that is terribly going wrong, because of which, as Dr. Kataki mentioned, that the death rate is significantly higher in the developing countries, especially in India. And so what basically would be the grassroots reason? So that's what I would like to tap into first, and then I would drive you towards the other screening processes and what we have as a solution that can really help all of us. Now, saying that, I always start with a tribute, and my tribute goes like this. So we have over here, you can see that 3 women from breast cancer, they are breast cancer hub advocates, and we lost them recently in 2018 and 19. And when we went and asked them, a lot of times, like, their main reason was that they were not aware that a painless or painful lump could be cancer. And that's how we lost so many young women, and we are still losing young men and women to breast cancer. So the basic fundamentals problem is that in spite of the socioeconomic condition, in spite of, like education, it is basically the taboo. Women are so shy to discuss any abnormality in the health. And I come from a family of physicians. My father was a pediatrician, and every time I grew up like, any problem in the breast means like we would always discuss, because he would tell all the moms to feed the baby's breast milk, because that is the best immunity a mother can give to the baby. Then if something is wrong in the breast, why are these women so shy to talk about it? The other important thing is ignorance, because women are not even aware. When we went and asked these women like why were they detected late, the reason was that they were not aware that this could be cancer. So basically, whose responsibility is it? It is our responsibility to translate the information to the community, because if this mom knew that this could be cancer, then they would have broken all the taboo, because they wanted to live for their children and they are our inspirations. And that's why we keep fighting, because we celebrate their lives, and because of them, I feel that our mission goes stronger each day. Now, switching gear a little bit over here, and I always present that in all the sessions, is about the male breast cancer scenario. Now, whenever we think of breast cancer, we always think the color pink, but I always request everyone to have a strand of blue. And that's why when I first thought of BCH, my condition was that there should be a blue touch to it. And every time I wear a blue along with the pink, so that, though the statistics says 1 out of 33 men will get breast cancer, but that man can be a father, a brother, or a son of the family. And how can we ignore the man? So basically, we collaborate with Male Breast Cancer Coalition, and you are going to hear our male breast cancer advocate, Marlene, later in the talk today. And so with Male Breast Cancer Coalition, they are a huge support group, and we have Peggy here, who is the co-founder and the director of Male Breast Cancer Coalition. So Peggy's son, Brett Miller, he fell the lump at the age of 18, so young, right? So because of him, actually, it is a he's an inspiration for everyone. So there is now a huge support group. Anyone facing any concerns with the male breast cancer scenario, please directly reach out to MBCC, or you can reach out to me and I'll connect you with them. The scenario with men is worse than women. Men feel it's a woman's disease and they are more shy to talk about it. And trust me, even in the US, when I'm talking about male breast cancer, 90% of the men are not aware. So in this case, you will see the wonderful job being done by Patricia, who is also in the seminar, in the webinar today. Patricia's husband, Marlene, we see his picture on the card. So Patricia takes the drives all across the US every year to generate the awareness that men get breast cancer too. Because when Marlene was diagnosed with breast cancer, we had him only for 5 months. We lost him so quickly. Though he was an educator, he was so informed, but he did not know that, he was having breast cancer too. So this is the scenario, so that's why another important aspect that with Breast Cancer Hub, we are trying to focus by collaborating with MBCC is the research part too, because many experiments that we have done ourselves in the preclinical studies that we do in the lab all the time is the experimentation done on the female transgenic models, the preclinical studies. Very less is being done in the male. So what we're trying to do is doing a retrospective study, trying to understand what are the underlying factors so that we can bring into limelight the actual scenario going on with the men, so that we can do justice with the men. And in India, because of the male breast cancer awareness since 2018 that I started to do it, so many men, I would say, like recently in our support group also, we have a man with breast cancer, and many men's life we could save, otherwise they would have been detected late. So I would request that, please also equally focus on the male breast cancer scenario as we focus on females. Now, when I thought about breast cancer, what I did was try to do real-time scenario of the interviews, and I tried to find out what is the underlying effect, right? So as I said, it's not the socioeconomic condition, it's not the education, it's taboo and ignorance. But another important thing that came to my mind that I felt was that many women are not even knowing that the concept, the perspective is that in my family, no one has breast cancer. So, like, why do I have to worry about it? So a woman, even if she's a school teacher, she's here in the picture. So, like she felt the lump for many months, but she told me, I've never thought this could be cancer. So determining all of that, as Dr. Sravana has mentioned, Dr. Kataki sir has mentioned that the significance of it, right? Because we need to detect breast cancer early, because even in the US, this is the statistics from American Cancer Society, we are still estimating this many number of deaths, like 43,600 females and 530 males. But in India or in the developing countries, the scenario is worse than the developed world. And what I see all the time is that the representation of few repositories. So what we're trying to do now, also the untapped sector, trying to do the research so that we can bring, like, for example, when I'm going to the villages, I always hear that my mom died, my sister died, my wife died. But is the data really represented? When we think of, I see 60% survival, but when I'm going into this urban and rural sectors, I hear that mostly the word death with breast cancer. So that is another untapped area that we are trying to cover. Now, what is the screening process with breast cancer? So breast cancer, when detected early, is treatable and curable, right? So Dr. Sravana very explicitly, she mentioned about the breast survey exam. So I'm not even going near to that because it was such a great presentation. So, but then, breast survey exam, when do we start it? She has explained it. Probably I would also request that from the age of 17 to 18 years to understand the look and feel of our breast to detect any abnormality. But what is the actual protocol according to the American Cancer Association for the breast cancer screening? It is the mammogram, which is the X-ray, low-dose X-ray of the breast between the age of 40 and 44. We are given the option to start screening with the mammogram every year. From women between 45 and 54 should go mammograms every year, not an option, and 55 and older can switch to a mammogram every other year. But here, again, there is a caveat because younger population are getting breast cancer too. So what is happening to them? Because even in the US, the detection or the progression is like detection is late because of many cases we do not fit into the age for the mammogram yet. Now, another important aspect is the clinical breast exam. That means every year here in the US, we go for our physical, doctors to the clinical breast exam. But when I spoke to many doctors in India, they said that it's again another taboo, like a male doctor touching a woman's breast. When this woman is coming for some reproductive problem, it's like, why are you touching my breast? Even the same reflection I got from the female doctors. It's only the tip of the iceberg that the gynecologist actually can do the breast exam, clinical breast exam. So we have to bring a solution. As Dr. Sravana said, breast survey exam will be the other next go thing because we can easily do that at home and it also breaks all the taboo. Now, when again another population is there, which is the high risk population. So high risk population means that, so basically our mammogram age is from the age of 40. We have to go for clinical exam every year, or we have to do our breast survey exam every month, right? But then what about the high risk population who are having a genetic history of breast cancer? For example, if a family has a breast or ovarian cancer, we cannot ignore that population and wait for them to reach the age of 40. So for them, they have to go to for screening test much earlier than the recommended age. Now, though it is 5 to 10% of all cancers are inherited, we call it, for the breast cancer scenario, we call it as HBOC syndrome, and mostly it's the BRCA1, BRCA2 mutation. Now, we also, again, we cannot forget the men of the family, because when in a family we have the BRCA mutation, the males can be the carrier or the expression can be in the man, and they can give it 50% chances to the son or the daughter. So I would always request that if you know a family going through the family history of breast cancer, please requesting the males also equally to do the genetic testing of BRCA1, BRCA2 mutation, because that is more towards the preventative measure that we can take many preventative actions too. Now, is it only the BRCA mutation? Because we should also understand when it comes to the genetics, it's not only the BRCA mutation, but also many other high penetrance genes, which I have written over here, and moderate penetrance genes. So it's always better to do a panel for the genetic testing. For the male breast cancer scenario is, of course, the BRCA mutation test we have to do, but in addition, we have the moderate and the high and the low penetrance genes, but we also have certain risk factors. So as Dr. Kataki sir was mentioning about the key risk factors, the prevention, So aging, family history plays a role, then radiation exposure, alcohol, liver disease, certain hormonal treatments, obesity, testicular conditions, and gynecomastia, in addition to Klinefelter syndrome or Cowden syndrome, can be the risk factor. So we should know that if a male has the BRCA mutation, BRCA2, then he is not only prone to breast cancer, but also prostate cancer or other types of cancers. So these are the high-risk population of the males and the females I'm talking about. So they have to be very vigilant and go for the screening process early. Now, another challenge that I'm going to talk about now is that all this time that I mentioned that, we all know that mammogram, which is the low dose X-ray of the breast, is the gold standard for breast cancer screening. But did you know that mammograms can also miss breast cancer if we have a type of tissue, we call it as fibroglandular tissue or dense breast. And we have Dr. Nancy Capello, whose mammogram missed her tumor, and she was detected as stage 3C by clinical breast exam and then followed by an MRI. So because of her, in the US now, she was the founder of RU-DENSE. We have this list, we have this data coming in many states that whether we have dense breast or not. This slide is very important for all of us to understand because many cancers are getting missed because mammograms are missing 50% of the cases with dense breast, and we women, 60% of us, we have dense breast. So what is this dense breast, right? So if you see this picture, this is the mammogram scan picture, and it is looking as dark because our breast tissues are made up of mostly fatty tissue, but we may also have certain percentage of the fibroglandular tissue or dense breast, and then we may also have heterogeneous dense breast or homogeneous dense breast, like full dense breast. So when we have this situation, and if we have a cancer or tumor, the lesion appears as a white dot, is basically finding a snowflake in the snowstorm. So what can be, so this is how, like, for example, if a tumor is right here, it will be detected, but if it's sitting inside that place, it will be camouflaged. So what are the additional screening process? Because in the US now, mammogram is becoming redundant and we are more focusing on the 3D mammogram or tomosynthesis. So the best alternative I would say is that in addition, we have to always recommend to go for 3D mammogram here. But in India, we can always say if you're going for mammogram, advocate for yourself, ask the doctor that do I have dense breast? In case if we have, in addition, we can do the ultrasound or the sonography because mammogram only will express if we have dense breast or not. So in addition, then we can do the ultrasound, which will help to detect the cancer. And in India, now many hospitals are running that in parallel, so which is a very good thing. But in case if it is not, then please do ask your doctor because we have saved so many lives in India, in the US, and globally through this webinar slide or when I'm doing the outreaches. So it's very important each of us know about the screening steps. Now, about the breast self exam, like Dr. Stabana has already mentioned, I just want to make a note over here that in collaboration with Male Breast Cancer Coalition and Sarah Cannon Cancer Institute and Carl Baum Illustration, we have developed the breast self exam card. One side is for women, and for the first time, one side is for men. So it's basically both sided. So we did not stop there. So I'm so grateful to our Breast Cancer Hub volunteers because, when I was talking to Peggy during the initial time when we were thinking of making this, so we said when we made it, the next step was if I'm going to the villages in India, so they will not understand the English language. So that's when, our Breast Cancer Hub volunteers stepped up from scratch. Now we have like 24 languages and we have in almost all the Indian languages. So for example, when I'm in Hyderabad, I'm giving it out in Urdu and Telugu. In Chennai, I'm giving it out in Tamil. And then in Assam, I'm giving it out in Assamese, in Bengali, in Hindi. So, but is it enough, right? So basically, you can ask me that many people over here, so they don't even know to read the local language. So what I'm doing is I'm making their kids read this. So basically breaking the taboo from the beginning, because these kids, small kids, they go to the local school and they know to read and write the local language. But then again, the next step is that taking accountability, because it's not enough to just go and do the presentation or just go and be there for the lecture, because we have to take accountability. So everyone in the villages, the organizers will have my WhatsApp number, or in the US or in India or wherever globally I'm doing, everyone has my email. So any issues, they reach out to me. So for example, if someone from Assam is reaching out, I will navigate them towards the, Dr. B. Borua Cancer Hospital, or if it's in Kachar Cancer Hospital, in Dibrugarh, Assam Medical College, or connect them towards the various resources. So that's how, we take accountability of the situation and we help them at the grassroots level. Now, while doing these outreaches, we have also determined that, that was again not enough. So what we did is we started to adopt villages. So now we go door to door and help with the breast, teach the breast self exam. And by doing that, we realized that other cancers are equally, predominant. So now we started to make early detection card for all type of cancers. And you can see that another preventative measure I want to talk about is the tobacco. In Northeast India, tobacco is like culture, every household. And here you can see this is a Manipuri community we have adopted, and we have also adopted tea garden laborer communities in Assam. So we can see that every household is eating tobacco. They're cutting the tobacco areca nut. So even if they are not even aware that this can cause cancer. So it starts from every angle, not only talking about the breast self exam, but how to prevent cancer too. And these people are so poor, for them, the health is not the priority, food is the priority. So even starting from taking them to the hospital, like we collaborated with Kachar Cancer Hospital, we go, we take them, we make sure that from the diagnosis till the diagnosis part, we pay everything. Like our revenue is not much at all because we don't have any government aid. So whatever little we have, we try to do everything. And then when they're detected, then the government aid comes in. So that really helps us a lot. And then we do the counseling, because it should be like counseling should be also a part of the breast cancer scenario, as Dr. Katiki sir has also mentioned, because it's an emotional turmoil. So from zero awareness in these villages, you can see now 100%, every household is aware. And now they, even if they have a little pain in the lump or any eruption of the lump, they will reach out to us. So we can proudly say that we have saved all these people. And then here comes the emergence of the support group too, because by doing this, we realize that, how in many households in India, it is being still, it's a prejudice that cancer is thought to be contagious, because, like many patients told me that they live in isolation, so that, because they are being so much into like, okay, you have cancer, I'm not going to talk to you about it. But I always say that the magic of support group, it plays wonders. What me as a scientist or an oncologist or a physician cannot do, a survivor does to the patient. So we have local support groups in the villages we adopted, and we have a very integral WhatsApp group where Umapai ma'am is here, Anjali ji is here, and Sarika is an integral part of our BCH global WhatsApp support group. And we share everything. It's like we belong, like we are family together. We are passing through this phase. So why I thought about it was, when I was going to these areas, women would tell me like, what is the support group? They had no idea. So that's, with BCH, everything is like heartfelt, there's no planning. But I would request everyone that, if you know someone going through cancer, please give them a hug. I know in COVID is not best practice now, but at least ask them, how are you feeling? Do you need help? We have survivors, stories published, share it with them, because that is magical, and that is what our advocates are going to do to in the session. I'm not going to all of this because I don't have time. I'll take another 1 minute. And just wanted to brush you towards the key risk factors. Family history, these are the prevention. Stress plays an important role. Diet is very important. Healthy diet, lifestyle plays an important role for the prevention of cancer. Obesity, the weight gain, because obesity leads to underlying inflammation in the body. And when it comes to inflammation, I always say that when we have any inflammatory condition in the body, for example, arthritis, or it was my work on arthritis and breast cancer, that's what Peggy was talking about in the beginning. It got press release in 2000. I think it was 2012, I forgot. So we discovered that, when we have arthritis and if we have breast cancer, then the progression of metastasis is faster, because the pro-inflammatory cytokines plays a very important role. So I always tell everyone, if you have some other disease going on in our body, and when we have breast cancer, any type of cancer, we always ignore the other disease. We really have to tap into that also. So race and ethnicity, tobacco, of course, is a no-no. Lack of exercise is not good. We have to exercise every day. And the environment, the radiation, all of these also plays an important role. Now, a lot of people tell me, like, so 30 to 50% cancer can be prevented, right? But many women tell me that, Lopa, I did everything right. Why did I get breast cancer? And my answer is, I do not know. So there is a bucket, we still do not know. There are so many genes, underlying genes and all of that we haven't discovered yet. But what we know, we need to take care of that. Alcohol consumption, that is also leading to inflammation. So basically it's a multidisciplinary effect having over the years, and genetics plays an important role. So those who are vulnerable, we need to be very, very careful. So that is what I can say. And I'm not going into any details anymore, but I would just like to say this, that this is a global slide that I have, that we are working globally together. But I always say that, a lot of times people ask me like, how does breast cancer have differentiate? And I always say, why do we have to differentiate? Because we are fighting for the cause of cancer, which is much bigger than anything. So can't we just come together? So I'm so thankful to BBCI for the collaboration today, because, I always believe that even through this, if we can save one life, we are saving a family. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I would go to our next speaker now. And after that, we are going to have Marlene and Sarika, who are our health heroes for today. So stay tuned to listen to them. And before that, we have Dr. Gaurav Das, who is going to now take us to the very important aspect, that is the novel surgical options and applications, that when we are diagnosed with breast cancer, there are so many options coming in. So what do we do? So in simple words, he's going to explain. So Dr. Gaurav Das is the Associate Professor of the Surgical Oncology from BBCI. Over to you, Dr. Gaurav. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. A warm good morning from BBCI Guwahati, India. And I thank Dr. Lokamudra as well as Breast Cancer Hub for giving me this opportunity to be among you all. So as a surgeon, I have been given the topic of novel surgical approaches to breast cancer. Is my screen visible?
No, not yet. Yeah, it's coming in. Yes, it is visible now, Dr. Gaurav.
Okay, so I'll start right away. So we have come a long way since the 19th century, when William Brolstead did something called radical mastectomy for breast cancer, in which along with the breast, he removed all the underlying muscles, and that caused serious deformity. Then 1 century later, that procedure was modified, and the underlying muscles were preserved. Now we are 1 century later, we have several approaches which we can call as novel. So we'll be going through each of them one by one. So like most solid cancers, breast cancer treatment is also a multimodality treatment approach now. And we have surgical procedures by which we can preserve the breast. We call that breast conservation surgery. As a third point, we have something called de-escalation of axillary surgery. We'll be discussing about that. And nowadays, the emphasis is more on having better cosmetic outcomes. And lastly, because of increased use of screening programs, we have non-palpable breast lesions, and the treatment of such lesions is again something which is novel in the surgical field. Coming to the multimodal approach, unlike previously when the surgeon used to be the sole person responsible for the cure of breast cancer, nowadays it is a team approach with everyone having an equal responsibility. So such a team would comprise, apart from the surgical oncologist or the breast surgeon, sometimes he may have to take the help of a plastic surgeon. Then the medical oncologist and the radiation oncologist, they play an equal role in the treatment of breast cancer. The radiologist, the pathologist, they are a very important part of the team, as well as the geneticist, because we know that 10% of breast cancers are because of hereditary origin. Now coming to the next thing, that is breast conservation surgery. As you can see the picture towards the right, we are able to save the breast, to preserve the breast, unlike a mastectomy, the picture in the left, where we have to sacrifice the breast. And this kind of surgery is possible for early breast cancer, as well as for cancer where the tumor is actually quite large. And in such cases, we can use chemotherapy before surgery to decrease the size of the tumor and make breast conservation possible. But then the important thing is that before the starting of chemotherapy, we have to localize the tumor properly with proper documentation, photographs, tattooing, or use of fiducial markers. Like in this example, for this patient that we treated, there was a 9 centimeter tumor in her breast. So we took a clinical photograph, documented the findings in her case record, and we placed something called as a fiducial marker. That's a gold marker which we placed in the center of the breast tumor with the help of ultrasound and mammogram. And then we started the chemotherapy. After all the cycles of chemotherapy were over, on clinical examination, we could not even palpate the lump. So when we went ahead and did the surgery, we had to remove only a small amount of breast tissue, and the cosmesis of her breast was preserved. But then the surgeon who is doing such surgeries should be well aware of the contraindications to such surgeries, because this kind of surgery is not applicable to everyone, especially those who have advanced tumors. Contraindications to note include diffuse microcalcifications. This is an observation that is made on mammograms, as you can see on the picture on the right. Then someone who has widespread disease in the breast, multifocal tumors, multicentric tumors, as the picture on the bottom of the screen, or some ladies who would have diffuse positive margins or persistent positive margins after excision of their lumps, or when the breast cancer is surgically managed in the early part of the pregnancy, which would necessitate delivery of radiation during pregnancy. So that is one of the contraindications. Or when the patient has a prior history of radiation to the chest, so that re-radiation would become an issue. Or when the patient has active connective tissue disease or has a genetic predisposition. Coming to the next topic, which you have named as de-escalation of treatment of axillary nodes. So what was classically done was a axillary lymphadenectomy. This was done to remove most of the lymph nodes in the axilla, which were assumed to have breast cancer cells in them. So in this, only a few structures in the axilla were preserved, like the axillary vein, the thoracodorsal pedicle, or the nerve bell too. Ultimately, the patient used to land up with a lot of problems. And such problems, to name a few, included lymphedema. As you can see the picture to the right, one of the operated side, the forearm, the upper limb is greatly swollen. That causes much discomfort and functional disability to the patient. Then there is something called shoulder dysfunction, where the patient is not able to have adequate shoulder movements. Patient will also have chronic pain and paresthesias, as well as winging of scapula when there is nerve injury. So to avert all these problems, there is a procedure called sentinel lymph node biopsy, which we employ when we have a clinically negative axilla. That means clinically there is no evidence of any palpable nodes, or radiologically there are no significant nodes in the axilla. So we have been doing this procedure in our institute and have reported our findings, where we use a methylene blue dye to detect such a sentinel node. We trace the lymphatics and find out the first draining lymph node of the breast, take that node or one or two of such nodes and send it for pathological examination, which we call frozen section. And if that node is reported as negative, we can stop our axillary surgery at that. So that becomes a very less morbid procedure. So we now do this procedure with use of methylene blue dye as well as fluorescent dye. The other way of doing it is using radioactive dye and also something called ICC. Next topic is regarding improvement of cosmesis, which is very, very important in today's age. So we have something called oncoplastic breast surgery, where we incorporate the principles of plastic surgery to improve the cosmesis of the breast, but not compromising the oncological outcomes. That means we do adequate cancer surgery, but then we take care of the ultimate cosmesis. We have reported our findings of whatever our experience has been in the last few years. So we can see in the picture to the right that we have done something called a Grisoti flap, where there was a tumor in the center of the breast. Usually removing such tumors will cause a very bad deformity in the breast, but using such surgeries, we are able to give good contour to the breast. This is another procedure where there was a large tumor in the inferior part of the breast, and after removal of it, that defect was covered and a cosmetic outcome given with use of such oncoplastic procedures. This is one of the patients that follow. In her case, we had removed quite a large tumor, and eventually she got a good cosmesis by use of such oncoplastic procedures. The other thing is about breast reconstruction. So when a patient undergoes a mastectomy, we can do breast reconstruction with tissue transfer from other parts of the body and give her a breast. And coming to the last topic, it's about the treatment of non-palpable breast cancer, surgical treatment. So when we are, with the increased use of screening techniques, screening mammograms, we are detecting breast cancer at a very early stage when it is not even clinically palpable, just abnormality seen on the mammogram. And such breast cancers need dedicated treatment. Starting from the evaluation itself, we need to do something called stereotactic biopsy. And the facility is available in your hospital, and we're doing that. And for the surgical treatment of this, we need to do something very specialized where we do wire localization. That means we put a radio opaque wire in a tumor bearing area and go ahead and remove that part of the breast tissue and do something called specimen mammogram. So that we mix and compare it with the previous mammogram and find out that we have actually removed what we intended to remove. So to conclude, we can see that rapid progress is happening in treatment of breast cancer in all the disciplines, and especially so in surgical discipline as well. And the surgical progress has mainly been to decrease the morbidity, to improve the oncologic outcomes, and also improve the cosmesis and positive body image. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gaurav. That was so great presented. I mean, the way you have is so comprehensive, you know, like and this will be, of course, recorded. This is a recorded session, and I'm going to post it in our support group and everywhere because it's invaluable advice, you know, from starting till the end about the reconstructive surgery, because these are the questions that comes up in everyone's mind, you know, so it will be very helpful. And thank you so much, you know, it was amazing how you put it together. So it will be super helpful for everyone, for our community. I'm really grateful for such a great presentation.
Thank you so much.
So our next, so we now have our two health heroes coming up. So we have Marlene Joseph Kraft. Marlene is a 74-year-old, and he has a twin sister, Marilyn, also. He is a husband, married for 46 years, a father, 2 sons, 40 years and 34 years. He's also a grandfather, 1 granddaughter, 12 years, born on the day of his first chemo treatment, 1 grandson of 9 years old. He is a Vietnam veteran, a retired copier service manager, instructor, technician, and now an 8-year volunteer for the American Cancer Society Reach to Recovery program, in addition to also driving cancer patients for 7 years in the Road to Recovery program. He is also a member of the Male Breast Cancer Coalition. It's such an honor to have you here, Marlene. So you are a veteran, so hats off to your service to the country. And you know, like we are so thankful to have your presence here today, and we are looking forward to hearing from you. Over to you, Marlene.
Thank you. Okay. In June of 2008, after taking a shower, I found a very small lump below my right armpit, not in the breast normal area, under my armpit. It wasn't painful, but it was new, and I knew it hadn't been there before. So I went to my doctor and had it checked out. He said, it's probably a cyst or something. He says, I wouldn't worry about it unless you start having a problem with it. Well, about 4 or 5 months later, I noticed it was starting to grow in size slowly. I'd already scheduled my annual physical, so I combined that. When I went back in, I asked the doctor again, and he looked at it and said, we probably should do an ultrasound. Well, since it was my annual physical, he scheduled a whole bunch of stuff, but it wasn't until later I realized he never scheduled the ultrasound. So I had to call back, get them to get it rescheduled for me. When we finally get it scheduled, I found out to get an ultrasound, I had to go to the women's clinic. That's the beginning of gender problems with males. I went there, and as soon as the technician started working on me, I could see she was uncomfortable. The supervisor soon stepped in and said, "I think I better take over." That was a big warning sign. It's like, uh-oh, this is not going to be good. And then she said, "I think I better check your left side too." Well, I didn't have any problem with my left side. So that's another thing made me worry that, oh boy, this is not going well. Well, then when I got done with that, she took me to a little room and said, "Wait here for a bit. We'll have the nurse navigator come talk to you." I go, oh boy. Well, when she came out with a booklet on breast biopsies. I had no clue what that was about, but it was all the different types. And she said, "We need to get you scheduled." So I got scheduled. And then of course, when I came back, I had to go to the women's clinic again to get my biopsy. Well, I didn't realize how painful it was going to end up being because I don't have much breast tissue. Every time they took a shot at it, it hit me in the ribs. But when I finally got through it, she said, "Well, we better get scheduled for the doctor to give you results. We better wait and have your wife come with you and meet with the doctor." Well, that was all kinds of alarms going off. So the day comes when we finally show up to the doctor. My doctor didn't show. They sent a new doctor who didn't know me to tell my wife and I that I had cancer. It was invasive ductal carcinoma. I kind of forgot everything after I heard the word carcinoma because I knew what that was. While we were there, they tried to say, "Well, let's try to get you scheduled for surgery." They wanted to look for a general surgeon and said, "Well, it might be up to 3 weeks from now." My wife, who works with doctors, said, "This isn't going to work." She took a copy of the diagnosis back to her office because one of the doctors she works for is a well-known breast cancer surgeon. She was getting ready to leave on vacation, but said, "You know what? I'll stay late, do your surgery, and take care of you." I was the fourth man she had done. During the surgery, she had a hunch that might be some cancer in my lymph nodes. She took out 13 lymph nodes in my right arm. They found cancer in 3 of them, but the only reason they found is because she froze the samples and checked them that way, and it showed up. Probably saved my life. After the surgery, when I finally had healed, I started taking chemo. I was scheduled for 16 chemo treatments. I started on andromycin Cytoxan, got through those, but I got halfway through the Taxol and I started getting neuropathy really bad in my feet. So they stopped the chemo at that point. After stopping the chemo and taking a break, I did 30 radiation treatments with no problems. That worked really well, no complications. After the radiation, I started on hormone therapy. when I got to the hormone therapy, it started off with tamoxifen, but I only stayed on it for 5 months before I started getting blood clots in my leg. So we had to stop, and they put me on Lupron shots for a year. And then they started mixing the back with the regular tamoxifen along with anticoagulants at the same time, warfarin. And the combination worked well enough. I got through the next 5 years of hormone treatment without any more problems with it. But what I did get was mood swings, hot flashes, and night sweats. Wow, what a change. Two years after my breast cancer, my new primary doctor noticed my PSA was up slightly. He said, normally I wouldn't worry, but I think we better have you look at a specialist. Specialist didn't think it was be anything, but when they did a biopsy, they found I had stage 3 prostate cancer. I had no symptoms. I had a radical open prostatectomy because it was already had escaped. Was nothing left to save. But because I was still on hormone therapy, I did not have to undergo any radiation treatments or chemo for that. And they said as long as my PSA stayed undetectable, I wouldn't have to. And to this day, it's undetectable. I am now considered NED, no evidence of disease. I caught it early. I didn't intend to. I just accidentally felt it. But I think that made a big difference catching it early. And I went and did something about it. My breast cancer is not genetic. I have been fully tested 4 times with full panels of genetics. The only mutation they found was a slight reference to that I might have Crohn's disease. Never had any problems in that area at all. I have 1 sister out of 5 that had breast cancer. Today, hers would have been rated stage 0. It was quickly taken care of. I was, however, repeatedly exposed to Agent Orange. And I suspect that has a lot more to do with my cancers and the fact that I have Parkinson's now. Breast cancer is tough on everyone, physically, psychologically, and emotionally. It changes your appearance, so it really affects your self-image. This is especially true for women, but add that extra stigma of being a woman's disease, and you can understand better the extra problems of a man being reluctant to seek help. That's why way too many of them die today, because they're afraid or too embarrassed to do something about it. We need to degenderize or genderize breast cancer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marlene. I don't know what to say. I mean, so touched and so moved. You are the conqueror, right? I mean, I have no words. And and thank you for sharing your journey. And it was not easy, I'm sure, to do so, but you did it for everyone. So God bless you. And you are our hero. And thank you. You are an inspiration for everyone who is going to listen to you. And I'm going to share it to everyone. You know, like we know in our support group, we have a breast cancer male patient, and I'm going to share your video. And it will be so, you know, it will be like an eye-opening for him. And it will be helping him for his treatment to go through. Thank you so much, Marlene.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next health hero is Sarika Mohan. And thank you so much, Sarika, for being here at this hour in the night too. So that's really amazing of you. She's a breast cancer survivor. Sarika lives with her husband, daughter, and son-in-law in Greensboro, North Carolina. She serves in several boards and is president in community organizations, and she's a very strong advocate in bringing awareness about breast cancer. Thank you, Sarika. And Sarika is an integral part of our support family. So her insights, her opinions are amazing. Over to you, Sarika.
Thank you, Lopa. Kind of hearing an echo. Is it okay?
Yes, we hear you clearly, Sarika.
Okay. I just want to first thank you, Lopa, for having me here. And I want to thank you for all the support that you have given me throughout my journey. Because without Lopa, I don't know what I would have done in certain places where I was really needed some help, and I would just ask Lopa, and she's there right there helping me, any time of the day. She would just call and say, Sarika, this is what you have to do. I felt a lump, and that's how I went to the doctor. My breast tissues were dense, so I was not, my lump was not detected early. So when my cancer was diagnosed, it was stage 3A. So it was a little bit later stage, but still, I went through 2 surgeries. So the first surgery, they did it, and then they found out that the cancer has gone to the lymph nodes. So once they found out it's on the lymph nodes, they had to do another surgery to get more lymph nodes out. So they did that too. And after that surgery, they did chemo. They did 4 sittings of AC and 12 sittings of Taxol. It all went fine. The Taxol, I heard Marlon's talking about Taxol and the neuropathy. My doctor had advised about having the gloves that is, it has all these ice pack in there. So they asked me to put it on my hands and my toes to cover it up really well throughout the Taxol treatment. That way I would not get neuropathy. And even if I do, it won't be as bad. So luckily I did not get neuropathy at the time. So Taxol went very well, followed by the radiation, 25 sittings. I would say the radiation was the toughest one for me. After the 20 sittings, it just burned like crazy. So, but in 1.5 weeks after radiation, everything cleared up. It was all gone. So it was all good. So anything that happened, if it was burning or hurting or everything, it's all for the treatment, and it was all good. So, so when I heard about this cancer, the first thing that went into my mind was, why me? So I'm pretty sure that everybody had the same kind of a feeling. Why me? That question. But after that why me question, I started thinking about my mom, because my mom had ovarian cancer. And she is a very strong woman, and she fought it. And she would not stop for anything. She would do her household chores as normal, and she would go and manage her business. And she had a business, she had a company, she did manage everything. So she did everything by herself, and she did perfectly fine. And she would not show, she did not suffer. I mean, she suffered, but she did not show. She was a strong woman. So when I think about her, I thought, I should be like her. So I did. And before I started the treatment, I thought, I should do some list of what I should be doing and I should not be doing. So on the top of the top 3 that I wanted to do was, be positive. So every treatment that I'm going to go through is going to be hard, or it's going to be tough, but that is all my treatment, and it's going to make me better. So I wanted to be positive. I was positive the whole time. And then the second thing I thought was having a support system. My family, my husband, my daughter, my son-in-law, they were amazing. They were the pillar of my strength. They were just there. Anytime when I need them, they are there. So my family was there, and I had a lot of friends. And Breast Cancer Hub support group is amazing. So when I had some questions or if I had some issues, I post that question to my doctor in a message, and I post the message to Breast Cancer Hub. And I would get the answers even before the doctor answered me. So that's why I was like, thank you, Lopa, for that, because I get so much information out of Breast Cancer Hub. And the third one that I was thinking was set a fun goal. After my treatment, what do I want to do? So I set myself a goal. So that has to be a fun one. So every time when I go through the treatment, I'm like thinking about what I'm going to do after this treatment. So that was the fun thing that I look forward to. So this was the top 3 do's that I wanted to do. And the don'ts, that's the main thing. No stress whatsoever. Anything that makes me stressful, I just walk out. I don't want to do it, because I don't hesitate to walk out of the stressful situation, because that is not going to do me any good. So walk away from there. So that is no stress and no negativity. Because if I am with people who are positive and, encouraging me, that's what I need. I don't need anything negative. That's what I was thinking. And other one is that only encourages. I don't want anybody who is discouraging me. Even if it is my friend circle or my family or anybody, I want everybody to be encouraging me. So that's what I felt like. And I did have a great support group, and I had support group like BCH, and I had support group from my hospital, and I had friends who were really supportive, and my family who were really supportive too. So, and finally, I wanted to say that everyone who is going through the treatment now, take care. Remember that there is a beautiful rainbow after all these storm of treatments. So take care, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarika. So such an inspiring story, right? I mean, you inspire everyone. So you know that this is going to help so many women across the globe, because you're an inspiration and Marlene is an inspiration. That's why what we cannot do, you all do it. So that's the magical power you both have. So thank you so much. And all our advocates, all our survivors who have joined in today, I mean, salute to all of you. So yeah. Thank you. So I think we have come towards all our speakers have presented now. So I would like to, Dr. Sravana, we are going to now open for the Q&A session, which will be an open forum. And I think I already have someone has a question for. Is that Ilora Borua? Yes, you have a question for Dr. Gaurav. So if Dr. Gaurav is there, so we have a question, Dr. Gaurav, from Ilora Borua. She said, excellent talk, Dr. Gaurav. Did you use MICAP flap for the lower quadrant tumor? And then she said, loved your talk. So are you there, Dr. Gaurav, to answer? Dr. Sravana, you are muted. Yeah. If you can unmute yourself, please.
Okay. He has gone to the OPD. Actually, there is a patient load is like,
Okay, sure. No problem. Okay, that's totally fine. So probably what we can do is
ask anything, then I'm here.
Yes. So any other questions anyone has for our panelists for today, before we close the session? And Ilora, we will take your questions. So probably, Dr. Gaurav, once he's back, or what I will do is I'm going to send this question to him, and probably if I can have your email address, please, I will mail it to you. If you can share your email address with me, I'll for sure mail it. Yes. So Uma ma'am has a question. Yes. If you have questions, just unmute yourself, because this is an open Q&A, an open interactive discussion. So everyone can talk. So it's more like we are meeting each other in a room.
I know. Thank you for that, Lopa. As usual, it was such an awesome session, and I'm really so very moved by hearing the history of what he went through, Marlene Kraft. But I think you did great. You did great, and to see you now on the screen, real time, is it is giving us so much of courage. And I'm sure, God forbid, if anybody has it in my family, I'm going to tell them to see your sharing when Lopa is going to share with me, because we have a lot of men in our family, still youngsters as their uncles are there. So it was so very grateful to you that you did come live on the screen. And, it's such a matter of consolation for us that you could win if you take
Yep.
life as a challenge and you pray for your higher power to lead kindly light, and your family support, as Sarika also shared. I think so. Caretakers play a very important part, Lopa, in all this, our journey, because if they're not there, where are we? Sometimes we don't know what to do, where to go, how to go, even just to call a doctor. I'm sure all of us hesitated because we don't know, he may be busy, he may not be busy, all those apprehensions in our mind. But now we know the frontline doctors are forever there to hold hands with us. We have to get over that apprehension. And I'm sure doctors like Lopa is created in this world only to hold all our hands at 24 hours, 26 hours a day. I trouble her at all times. I take the liberty to call her, talk to her on all things. So Sarika, your journey has been amazing. I keep meeting you in our BCH groups, and I'm so longing to see you. You're coming.
I know. I'm coming, Umaji. I have to see you too.
Yeah, you tell me when you're in Delhi, or you come down to Bangalore, and I'll take you to a lot of places.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it was so lovely to hear you today, right, Lopa? What she was before. Wow,
Absolutely.
you have now grown so much psychologically,
Yeah.
mentally. You become stronger.
Thank you.
Thanks to all the advocates and all the help and encouragement that you're getting. I just had one doubt, Lopa. My son, he's one gym builder, right? And having no father from the age of 8, I was both a mother and father. So he used to go to the gym, and I think he didn't have a particular trainer. So he tried to experiment with weights and all that. And he wanted to be, I don't know what he wanted to be, don't ask me. But he used to have 13 raw eggs every day. He said, I'm going to be a Schwarzenegger. I said, oh my God, no, a Schwarzenegger, please. So a lot of kids I know at his age, without a role model, without a father figure, have just gone on to the gym and, exercised a lot. So in my family, both my daughters and myself, we always make fun of him because he does have dense breasts. I don't know why. And he's now around 40. So I was just wondering, because I had the incidents, right? And my elder sister had also stomach incident. And I lost my husband because of the floor of the mouth, tongue, below the tongue cancer. Of course, he became all right, Tata's, and he threw a challenge at Dr. Rajbert, where he was a very, very youngster at that time. I'm talking about 40, 50 years ago. But having said that, do you think it is advisable for my son to go and do a test, a mammo or scan or something? I don't know. It's sort of
Yes,
now.
he
after
should.
learning, it's worrying
Yes.
me.
Yes,
If there's
yes,
any
he should.
problems, yes.
Yes, he should. Brett was 17 when he found his
Yes.
lump. It took 7 years for doctors to finally diagnose him, because even the medical community had no idea a young man that age could have breast cancer. They wrote it off as he was going through puberty. That was not the case. Okay, so
Thank you very much.
press
I
for
really
him to
appreciate
go
it.
be checked.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then also, Uma ma'am, anytime, male breast cancer coalition.org. So any concerns, you can connect. So Peggy, we have in our group a male breast cancer going through now, but he is very anonymous. So I'm not able to,
That's the other problem. I think we ladies are more open, now.
Yeah,
we know how to
and
take awareness.
And if you would like him to reach out for Brett to talk with him, because Brett can give him an experience from being a young man He is always available. Just let us
Yeah,
know.
I
He
will-
can
I
do
will
it through
again- I
FaceTime.
will again try. So he's a very young man, so I will again try for sure. And we
Yeah.
also have someone in Africa, but he's totally anonymous. So I'm trying my best. So, but I'm giving all your information. So that you can,
Yes,
yeah.
No,
We're
but having said
available.
that, my son is such a health freak. He doesn't
Right.
know, he doesn't drink hardly, he has a wine or something. Like
Yeah,
my
Brett-
body,
Brett-
and that's it.
Brett
It's
was a
not that he's
football
getting
player and a
crazy habits.
wrestler and
Yeah.
very healthy.
But I thought,
Yep.
yeah, but I thought because of genetically, whether he is inclined, I don't know. You see, this
You
is
can do the genetic test panel, Uma ma'am.
Yes.
So for sure you can do that for him.
For
I
him
did
too.
genomics. For me, they did the genome testing for me. I have the
So
one
then
of the
I think we
first,
should be good.
yeah, I am one of the, what you say, guinea pigs when they start.
Right. And-
Volunteered. And so far, thank God, I mean, nothing has come up so far.
Right.
According to
And in our family,
But
we
it
run
is
no
a nagging
genetics.
doubt in my head, he doesn't know about it that I'm talking
Yeah.
about. He doesn't know whether or not
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Yeah,
But as
we-
a mother, I feel that maybe I should make him to go through some tests.
Yeah, absolutely. You should.
Yeah, let
Yes,
them check
encourage
him
him.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even if they're finding out more and more on the younger men that the
Yes.
sonogram and possible MRIs will work better than the mammogram.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so
Thank
I
you.
think-
Thank you. You're such
Thank
a
you
living
so much.
example, Marlene.
Oh,
Having
thank you.
gone through it
Yes,
and,
he
I
is.
just-
I
that's
have a
life. Oh my
mission.
God.
Yes, he does. All the best. Thank
I
God.
didn't go through all this
Both
for
of you,
nothing.
Sarika and Marlene, all the best. And of course, the caretakers. I mean, any amount of appreciation and thanks, to your caretakers and to your higher papa, whoever it is, I think it's not enough. Every day we should count our blessing. Every morning, as soon as you open your eyes, count your blessing. Okay, God, I'm here today,
Yes.
alive
Yeah.
and kicking. And how? Sarika, how?
Yeah.
Marlene, when I
Yep.
come to North Carolina, I'll meet all of you. Okay?
Marlene is in California.
That's a
Yeah.
much better place. I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything for North Carolina.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think is Dr.
Thank you.
Gaurav here? I thought I
Yeah,
saw him.
Lopa, Dr. Gaurav is here to take the
Okay,
question. of
perfect.
the-
Yes. So I know,
Thank you.
Dr. Gaurav, you are on a tight schedule. So thank you so much for coming back. So Elora has a question for you, and she said, "Did you use MICAP MICAP flap for the lower quadrant tumor?" And she loved your talk, and she said it's an excellent talk.
Yes,
So
that was an intra-intercostal artery perforator flap, ICAP flap. Rather than a LICAP, it was an ICAP.
So Elora, did you get your answer?
Yes, I did. Thank you. So do you use perforator flaps often, Gaurav?
Yes, ma'am. Within this year, we have done close to 10 such flaps.
Because I work in UK and I'm a breast surgeon there, and we very often use this MICAPs and LICAPs, even TDAPs. So I would love to come to Assam because I'm from Assam myself and see one of your operations in your hospital if possible.
It will be your pleasure, madam.
Lovely. See
Yeah.
you soon then. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elora. So, Dr. Elora, you're from AMC. My dad was also from Assam Medical College. So, I
Oh,
just thought,
really? Very nice.
yeah, I mean, I
Long
lost
time
him
back.
I lost him in 2020, but yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
he was in AMC, graduate from MBBS from AMC, MBBS and AMC. So I think we have but I see, okay, Ritushri is here. So Sarika's sister. Thank you so much, Ritushri. And Sarika is amazing. That's why, it's the feeling is likewise. So thank you so much for being here, Ritushri. It's a big support for Sarika, right? I mean, that's so nice. Any other questions we have before we close the forum? We have 2 more minutes. Because I think we all wrapped up in a proper correct timings of 1.5 hours. And so yes, Anjali ji, yes, she is also like she is amazing. She is I mean, lot of feathers on her cap. So yes, Anjali ji, over to you.
Hi everyone, big hug to all.
Hey.
And I love Marlene's story, very touched, and he's so positive. Really, I loved your story. And Sarika ji, I used to message you, I always read the message, BCG group, support group.
Oh,
But I
yes.
go through that. Sarika,
Of course,
today
yes.
I've seen you. You're so positive and you're going to be future Mrs. World.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I
Thank you.
want you to be.
Okay, sure. Why not, Anjali ji? Sure.
Yes.
Very good.
And you're so positive. You also so Marlin, you're so positive. I loved it. Touched your story.
Well, thank you.
I'd love to see you here. And Dr. Lopaji, thank you so much for your support. I never message because I don't have any ideas for, what to write, but I go through all the messages and I take the message and I give to my cancer patients, wherever I go. See this thing you have to do. See this thing you have to do. So thank you, Lopaji. Thank you, everyone, all doctors, all survivors.
Yes.
Whoever there in the group. Thank you so much. And big hug to you. And Sarika ji, Mrs. World, I want you to in future.
So it is coming from Mr. Anjali ji, who is a pageant holder in India. So, so you can understand. So she fought breast cancer and she is like, how many pageants you won, Anjali ji? So she is an inspiration for the women in India, for the cancer fighters in India. That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lopaji. And Sarika ji, if you're coming to India, please come to my place. Lopaji, whoever coming to India, please come and meet me.
Yes, of course, Anjali. I'll come and meet you. I'll come and meet you for sure.
Maybe somewhere in between we meet.
And we can dance
Sure,
together,
sure.
Anjali.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, she
Come,
does
come.
such belly dance.
Okay, that I don't know, but
What
we
I
can
worked
dance.
on last time in the video. I remember that.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Before we end today, so Dr. Kataki sir is here. So sir, would you like to, share something as
Okay, it was indeed a very good program, and then we have enjoyed slowly. And the best part of this program is it is a very informal and lively. So all spoke out very well. They spoke from the heart. That is very important. And then thoroughly enjoyed. Probably this has given us an opportunity to contact each other, and then this relationship will continue to grow. Thank you, Rupa, once again, and then thank you all the participants. Okay, we really enjoyed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you. And I think kudos to Dr. Shravana. Dr.
Thank you so
Shravana,
much.
would you
It
like to
was
say
such
a
a
few
nice
words?
thing, yeah. I
Thank you.
really love the platform, and I think it will be very beneficial for all of us. So looking forward for future collaboration with you all. So thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Gaurav, as well.
Yes.
And I'd like to thank our director, sir, for his support. And thank you, sir. And I thank everyone here, present here, and Lopa, especially you, being so proactive. It was very nice working with you. The collaboration was really, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Shravana. So finally, I would like to thank again our esteemed speakers, Dr. Shravana, Dr. Gaurav, Dr. Kataki Sar, Sarika Mohan, our health hero, and Marlene Kraft, our health hero. Saying that, I would, without our participants, no session would be successful. So each and everyone from Male Breast Cancer Coalition, you stayed today late night. Marlene's family stayed back. So, and everyone who joined from India. And thank you so much, Peggy, Patricia, for your support all the time. So anyone facing any concerns, please reach out to Male Breast Cancer Coalition. They're doing amazing work. And, for men, we always collaborate together with MBCC. And of course, anyone needing any help, we are always here. And it's my honor to, work with B. Borua Cancer Hospital. And I look forward to coming and meeting everyone in India. And saying that, I would like to, by taking everyone to this permission, I would like to, yes, Suma, ma'am, you have something to say. Sorry, Kataki sir, ours become very informal at the end. You can see that, we function like a family.
Come soon, I said. Come soon. I said.
Yeah, okay.
I said,
Yeah,
come.
sure.
And anyway, here is a toast to all of you. for the lovely morning and the evening there, of course, on the night.
I
whatever,
have
but
water
for
with me.
morning. This is my health drink. This is my health smoothie. You know, I'm doing
Yes,
reverse
Marlene
diabetes.
also got one.
Yeah. I'm doing
All right.
reverse diabetes and a vegan food during COVID time, something new to do. So it's kept me going, and I lost 5 kg, Ropa. So good.
Awesome, very good. So thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Tan.
So I would like
Thank
to
you.
formally now close the session and
Yes, thank you.
honored to be here with everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr.
We are
Loka.
honored.
Thank you,
We are
everyone.
honored.
Marlene.
We
Bye.
are
Bye,
honored.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye, everybody. Take care. Be safe.